Good morning. Welcome to a special meeting of East St. Paul Council. I'll call the meeting to order, the time being 10 a.m. Council, we have an amended agenda in front of us tonight or this morning. To remember it's this morning, we're not used to that. Can I have the resolution to adopt the amended agenda?
Be resolved that the agenda be amended as follows, adding item 4.2.1. Subdivision S23-3000 for 209 and 215 Foxgrove.
I have a mover, please. Councillor Posthumous, seconded by Councillor Imhoff. I should say that Councillor Horechko is online this morning, and he will be. So we'll just pause and give him the opportunity to also say if he wants to move or if he wants to second. And listen for his aye when we call for the vote. So all those in favor? Aye. That's carried. Okay, under public hearings, we have variation order 83 for resolution to open the public hearing, please.
Be resolved that council open the public hearing of council for variation order 83/2023 for 215 Maxwell King Drive.
I have a mover, please. Councillor Duval, seconded by Councillor Imhoff. All those in favor? Aye. That's carried, and I'll pass it off to Mr. Planner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, Council. This is variance application BO 83/2023. The subject property is located at 215 Maxwell King Drive. The applicant wishes to temporarily change the land use for not more than 5 years. According to the section 97(2)(a) of the Planning Act. This is the variance request table. The applicant wishes to temporarily change the land use for not more than 5 years. This is the location map. As you can see, the property gains access from Maxwell King Drive. The applicant is proposing some renovations and exterior alterations to the proposed deck right over here. This is the zoning map, which is why we are here. The property has a split zone. This portion of the property is under DR zone, that's development reserve, and majority portion is under the institutional zone. Because of the split zoning, DR zone doesn't allow any development or the existing use on the property, which is why the use has to be very temporary. This is just a snapshot of the zoning bylaw. As you can see, the DR zone, the current use, that is the private club, is not permitted nor conditional. It is only conditional as an institutional zone. This is the site plan provided by the applicant. This is the proposed new canopy that replaces the existing deck. These are more drawings by the applicant. The highlighted portion is the old deck that will be replaced. As I said before, the applicant is proposing to replace an 18 wooden deck and also renovation and alterations to the front patio for outdoor gatherings. This variance allows the applicant to obtain permits for alterations to the existing structures in the DR zoned portion of the property. The current DR zone does not allow for the existing use, that is the private club. Therefore, Red River Planning District cannot issue permits unless the use is changed temporarily via this application. We also know that we are in a process to update the current zoning bylaw. Once adopted, this scenario shall be addressed by rezoning the entire property under one zone. However, in the interim, this variance will help establish changing the land use temporarily for a period of not more than 5 years. Just for council's consideration, this is the section of the Planning Act, section 97(2), that allows a temporary change of land use for not more than 5 years. If the council wishes to approve this application, the planner recommends 3 conditions. Number 1, this variance's approval is to temporary change of land use as proposed in this application. Any changes will require new approval. Number 2, this variance is limited for a period no more than 5 years to expire on July 27, 2028. Number 3, the applicant owner obtains all the required permits from Red River Planning District and the RM of East St. Paul if required. Thank you. If the council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, council. Do you have any questions? No questions. Okay, is the applicant in the audience and wish to speak to the application today?
Well, I think we're comfortable with the information that's been well presented. So.
Great, thank you. And the 3 of you are signed in support. Do you wish to speak or just here for in support? Okay,
Support.
thank you. Okay, is council prepared to close the public hearing?
Yes.
Yes.
Be resolved that council close the public hearing of council for variation order 83, 2023 for 215 Maxwell King Drive.
Can I have a mover, please? Counselor Imhoff, seconded by Counselor Duval. All those in favor? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That's carried. And now for resolution.
Be resolved that council approve the zoning variance as presented with the following conditions. This variance approval is to temporary change of land use as proposed within this application. Any further changes will require a new variance approval. This variance is limited for a period of no more than 5 years to expire on July 27th, 2028. The applicant owner obtains all the required permits from RPD and the RMV St. Paul if required.
Can I have a mover, please? Counselor Posthumous. Oh, sorry. Second. Moved by Counselor Horechko, seconded by Counselor Posthumous. All those in favor? That's carried. And,
Thank you very much.
you're moved. Under general business, we have the professional planning services proposal for resolution.
This, if I could have just a minute.
Sure. Yeah.
The next item, which is those two, what's in Foxgrove, that's a planning matter as well, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Can we do that one next, as opposed to having our planning people?
Oh,
switch in?
yes, that's fine. Well, are you ready? Okay, so we're gonna move to item number 4.2 under plan. Sorry, my mic wasn't on. We're gonna move to item 4.2 under planning. I'll pass this off to you, Madam CEO, because I believe we need.
I believe that we're moving to item number 4.1.2 for the August 2023 council meeting date change.
Oh, okay, sorry. I thought that we were going to the planning item. That one's under administration. Okay, for resolution.
August council meeting date be changed from August 15th to August 22nd, 2023.
I have a mover, please. Counselor Posthumous, seconded by Counselor Imhoff. Any discussion? All those in favor? All those in favor?
Forrest, are you in favor?
Yes.
Okay, that's carried. And now under planning.
Whereas the applicant has made an application for subdivision S23-3000 to do a lot boundary adjustment in the R117 zone. No new lots are being created. And whereas council has considered the application, the Red River Planning District zoning development plan, zoning bylaw, and input provided at the public hearing. Therefore, be it resolved that application has been rejected for the following reasons. At the public hearing of this application on May 23rd, 2023, the applicant indicated to council that they wish to create 2 additional single-family lots fronting Saddle Ridge Lane. Council agrees with the applicant's long-term proposal. However, newly created single-family lots are not a possibility in the RMV St. Paul due to the moratorium, Resolution 2020-840. That suspends all new development, subdivision, and any type of applications for development which require municipal water services.
Wastewater, yeah.
Wastewater services.
In hearing the resolution, I'm just wondering, is that accurate when they were asking for a boundary? they weren't. Are you considering that 2 new lots? Because of the boundary line change?
Boundary line change, there were no new lots created.
So right. So my understanding says. The applicant indicated to council they wish to create 2.
Did indicate at that.
At the public.
Yeah,
hearing, they
yeah, at the public
indicated
hearing
that.
they did.
Oh, okay, so.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it as long as, if it's read by someone else, I don't think that we,
We both read it, went back and forth. And, I proposed and he came back and then I came back and said, "Again, this is what we came up with."
that's fine. As long as we're clear, so there's no confusion if someone else reads it. Is council okay with the resolution as presented?
Just to be clear. We are turning down their proposed boundary change. Which created an L-shaped base. That's being turned down. Are they free to apply for a different type boundary change? Which is, we all know which one is the advantage of everyone. You're free to apply for that?
Are you talking about a boundary change? 'Cause
Yeah,
they could-
another,
they
a
could
different boundary change.
Yeah, I mean, they could keep applying for different boundary
Okay.
changes anytime they wanted.
And they understand that, I do.
Yes, yeah, we had, after the meeting, we set out their minutes, when you guys were in camera.
And again, boundary change really has nothing to do with the fact that we have an infrastructure problem. Okay, I get it.
Councillor Posthumous?
So my understanding is they originally just wanted the boundary change because they could do that because of the moratorium and they were gonna have one large plot. Which then they could both sell and somebody could subdivide later or whatever. But in discussion, they decided not to do that now. And they're just gonna look at single lot splits on back on Saddle Ridge for both properties.
When a possibility, they plan to subdivide.
Yeah, if it comes up as a possibility. So they've changed their mind and they would sooner do that. Than stay with, boundary change.
Yeah, they always wanted to, do the subdivision. This was just in the meantime. They couldn't.
So we kind of.
So when they can, they will apply for subdivision.
So we should have probably pulled that right off. The beginning and then the
They knew
plan,
that.
or whatever, they should have
Yeah.
minimized that.
Yeah, they knew that.
Okay,
Um,
you want us?
Boris have anything to add to?
No, I was just listening.
Okay, so we denied the application. That was before us, and now this is the resolution. Do you need us to vote on the resolution or yes, we're gonna vote on the resolution. Okay. Okay. So. Did I move the resolution yet?
No. Would you like me to reread it?
Please.
I'll just get a mover and a seconder.
Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Posthumous, Councillor Duval. Oh,
Whereas the applicant has made an application for subdivision S23 3000 to do a lot boundary adjustment in the R117 zone. No new lots are being created. And whereas council has considered the application, the Red River Planning District Development Plan, zoning bylaw, and input at the public hearing. Therefore, be it resolved that application has been rejected for the following reasons. At the public hearing of this application on May 23rd, 2023, the applicant indicated to council that they wish to create 2 additional single-family lots fronting Saddle Ridge Lane. Council agrees with the applicant's long-term proposal. However, newly created single-family lots are not a possibility in the RMLD St. Paul due to the moratorium. Resolution 2020-840 that suspends all new development, subdivision, and any type of applications for development which require municipal wastewater services.
any discussion? Yes, Councillor Deville.
One point of clarity, we often always rate these resolutions in the affirmative. Rather, you don't get double negatives mixed up here. So just to be clear, a yes vote here is for the rejection.
Reasons of rejection.
Reasons.
The reason.
So you already did the resolution for rejection, but you need a secondary resolution, which doesn't have to be done the same night, just with the reasons.
So I just want to make it clear, we're sitting up here voting and then yes or no. A yes means it's rejected. Because that's a negative term, that's a negative connotation in this distinction, which isn't encouraged and just to keep it clear, okay?
So council is approving the reasons why the application was rejected.
The application was
All
rejected,
right,
yes. Okay. Is Oris, he's good? Councillor Hiroshima, you're good?
No, because I'm not in favor of the rejection. So I'm just sitting here on the sidelines.
I'm sorry. I thought we unanimously turned down the application that evening.
He voted to not to.
Oh, okay, I see, okay. So then, okay, so he understands what's happening then. So, okay, so I'll call for Art. You want to add, Councillor Costumus?
Yeah, I initially voted to not turn down the rejection, but in the understanding that they do want to split two lots off the back and come back in the future with that proposal. I believe this is the right thing because they'll have to change their land again. Now it's two neighbors, one piece of property. Then it would have to be changed back to separate neighbors again with separate titles to do the subdivisions individually off the back for single lots. So it would be a lot more work. So in understanding that, I would be for it now.
Okay, so I'm going to call for the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. That's carried. Okay. So then that wraps up our planning for this evening or this thing.
Is there anything else we can?
I think we're good. Thank you. Have a nice day. Thank you. Okay, so now we'll go back to 4.1.1, the professional planning services proposal. Is this where you need a moment? Okay, we'll take a break. A resolution, please.
Be resolved that council approves the proposal for professional planning services for a secondary plan as submitted by Placemakers LLP for the total cost of $131,840 plus applicable taxes.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Duval, seconded by Councillor Costumus. I will I'll open the floor up for discussion. Who would like to go first? Councillor Duval.
yeah, this is probably the biggest thing since Pritchard Farms that we're facing here, and maybe even bigger than that, actually. in East St. Paul. Well, I have a concern about cost. On the other hand, I must admit that I don't know what these kinds of studies and plans would cost anyway. It could be a great deal, it could be exorbitant, I don't know. But what I do know is that, in my opinion, because this is such a major development, we are planning a town here. We're not, this isn't an extension of 100 lots in a residential area. This is a whole town, streets and all the services and so on and so forth. It's a major plan, and it's a large, substantial piece of our municipality, as you can see on the maps. It's more important in my mind that we get it done right, rather than how much it costs. If it's not done right, you live with it forever. If you paid too much for it, and you think you paid too much for it, that's forgotten in less than a year. So I think we should focus on what can be done correctly and by a prominent organization, rather than get hung up on the dollar value. $131,000 is not cheap change, but keep in mind, just to put it in perspective, we just bought a snowplow truck for 200 grand, and I think we bought something else for 400 grand as a capital asset. So we are dealing in big numbers. So let's not get too scared of the number. It's more important that it's done right.
Thank you. Who would, Councillor Posthumous?
Yeah, my concern is the big number and we don't have anything to compare it with. Last time I was just at Red River Planning meeting, and actually St. Clements is asking Red River Planning to do the secondary plan in I think it's Tyndall and Lebo, and lay out their town. And Red River Planning is looking at doing it, but they did say they would be in supervision looking on, and they would hire possibly a consultant or someone to help them with it because it is large. So Red River Planning is doing some secondary plans for St. Clements. So I'm sure they would have to be part of this too, because they would know all our zones and what fits also. So to me, it's a lot. I don't know what to compare it with. I don't know if we can get another price to compare it, but or ask Red River Planning their thoughts on it too. Derek had already talked about the secondary plan on that side with previous councils and was looking at it. We just never brought it forward to Red River Planning.
Kara, are you wanting to say something?
I
Thank you.
did speak to Derek about this, and he indicated they don't have any time in the near future, right? So right now they're working on the zoning bylaw, and then he's gonna do a development plan update, because that's gonna be up to plan 37, so this could be years before they could do a secondary plan. It's a huge undertaking, and I should mention consultant planners do charge the same as lawyers.
Yeah, they were looking at the fall for St. Clements secondary plan at the Red River Planning meeting I just was at. Because we did a vote on it and they would move it to the fall.
Maybe they had an agreement in place ahead of time, but I had mentioned this to Derek, he said he wouldn't have any time in the next few years to do anything for us.
Also would be, the RRPD would be hiring a consultant. And that fee would come to the RM. It would not be that RRPD would handle the whole secondary plan, and we're not dealing with just a subdivision as Councillor Duval has let us, brought to the table, is that this is another side of a town. This is a town that will be created in future to come. We're dealing with policies and bylaws and connectivity and architectural. It's not just a subdivision of plotting lots. This is a whole plan that will be in place with the RM for many, many years to come. And if you divide it up amongst the houses, it works out to be about $25 a house. And if you keep it for, 50, 100 years, it ends up being minimal cost, and it protects the RM from. So not only protecting the RM, but allows for councils in the future to have a proper plan to approve from. And it removes a lot of personal opinion. And, you know, that's a Bill 37 and, you know, the province is looking at, they're looking at us implementing bylaws and policies and secondary plans to have checklists so that when applicants make an application, they know what we would entertain. They know if they meet our requirements that their subdivisions or developments would be going through, instead of every application coming forward with uncertainties and unknowns. And, you know, our planning office doesn't have the ability to tell them architecturally what that should look like. Planners are asking, we can't give them any feedback. It seems very confrontational, opposed to everybody collaboratively working together to ensure that any future development to come, it complements and is respectful to East St. Paul. And, you know, I think that I understand there's a cost associated with it, but it's an investment. And at the end of the day, it will be used for many, many years to come. And it will have public input, council input, planning board input, you know, any landowners input. And then also it's the plan presented is from a very reputable planning organization. And I think that the meeting that we had, everybody felt very confident coming out of that meeting. So I'll just move to another counselor for comments. Counselor Horechko.
I mean, I know we need to get this done, and I totally understand that, but I was hoping that we would have a second race and opinion. And I agree kind of with, you know, Councilor Postumus, because regular planning is possibly looking at doing something for state events. Or maybe we could table this for a month, because this is going to be finalized at the next Red River planning meeting, and we might have more information for you before we make this, you know, decision. Like everything else is, you know, just big deal for it. So, you know, we just put it in the
Councilor Horechko, did you hear Kara, our planner, let us know that RPD told our professional planner that we would not be able to, they would not be able to entertain a secondary plan with us for years to come?
No, I never heard that.
This one's a bit of a different scale, right? This is a extremely large scale and it would take a lot of time. So they would need to, you know, not be doing other projects at the same time.
Well, I'm trying to understand that. Hypothetically, they could bring on a consultant and pay them and charge us. So hypothetically, instead of 130, maybe it would be 65,000 or 90,000 or 80,000 to get the same job done, if not better.
Councilor Horechko, did you take the time to review the applicant's proposal and all their experience and their
I'm not debating that. I'm not debating their experience.
so it's the cost that you
Debating, let's say the one price. You know, I mean, I always look at kind of tendering things. Are they the only company that can do this? I don't think so.
You're right, they're not the only company that can do this, but council did have a discussion around sole sourcing, and there was justification for why council would sole source. And I'm not certain if was Councilor Horechko at that discussion? I can't remember. Horace, were you at the discussion around sole sourcing? And did you attend the meeting with the plan with no?
No, because I know we have all this.
Okay. Okay. So we have a lot of pressing items on the other side of 59 highway. I do think the time is of the essence, and I think that we need to be prepared. And I think that having the moratorium on development right now, which enables councils to work towards being prepared for future development is very important for us. I think that if it's the cost and I have full confidence in the proposal in front of us and the organization handling the proposal. So I have confidence in that, and I have no objections to the cost. So I'm going to let my counselors debate this one out, because I think everyone knows how I feel at the table right now. Councillor Imhoff is next to present.
So obviously having only one cost is, I can see how that would be an issue. But having reviewed the proposal, there are some very interesting things in there that I think we would benefit from. So in there, they've done some work consulting on the plan 2050, which we know that this development plan has to sort of tie in with that. So they already have the knowledge of the 2050. I think this is an opportunity because this company seems to do the majority of their work outside of our province and outside of our country. There is a real opportunity for some innovation here. Some of the things I've looked up, some of the projects that they presented as theirs, and they're pretty impressive. I think the fact that they don't necessarily, the references that they provided here, don't know that they've done a whole ton of work with a bunch of our local developers, which sort of removes them from that sort of bias towards certain types of development, allows them to see things from a different perspective. The one thing for sure that I have a concern with is they're very clear about when they could start work, but not so clear about an expected time frame for delivery. So I think that needs to be cleared up. Our concern about costs. There are currently 2 recently closed RFPs on MERCs from municipalities that are nearby here for very similar type work. We would be able to get a quick cost comparison for that. They won't be exact scope, but they'll be very similar. One of them is a development plan and zoning bylaw review, right? And the other is where to go? I lost it. But there's another one that's very similar, same idea, right? So our newly consolidated zoning bylaw. So there's similar type reviews. I think we could probably get a pretty good cost comparison there. From my understanding of looking into these types of things, this cost doesn't seem to be crazy, but again, I'm not a professional in this area. So I would like just an idea of sort of the ballpark costing on this.
Just to say, if you would require that I could take the scope and ask a few firms what their charges would be.
I think we'd have to look at if we're stuck on the price, we're going to have to look at other RMs that have took on this work in the past and see what they paid for the work. Otherwise, it's not a good example if we're just reaching out and.
Yeah. One secondary plan is not the same as the next. There's some interest in what generally these things cost, but you'll have to be very careful what you're comparing. This particular piece of property, it's got transportation problems. There's going to have to be some pretty fancy designing and forward thinking on how transportation and traffic's want to get in and out of there, because it is locked in by major highways and a floodway, completely surrounded. very limited opportunities, at least it appears at this stage, very limited opportunities for access. How would that compare to some of the development plans and secondary plans that other municipalities locally are considering? I would almost guarantee that they wouldn't have a complication like that. So it's very specialized what has to be done to this particular area. And the other point is that we cannot ignore is that there are First Nations involved in this piece of property. What's the ramifications of that? I think the other municipalities, again, probably do not have that complication. And there's substantial properties by First Nations.
But a third of it.
So I think it's imperative that we move along and get a plan quick rather than delay. And to Councillor Imhoff's point, is that cost really out of whack today? Again, I'm like him, I'm not too sure what it should cost, but it doesn't seem like a lot. When you look at some of these presentations that you see, it takes a lot of work to put it together. A lot of thinking, a lot of analyzing, designing, put something together. They probably go through any number of optional designs before they come up with one to present or two to present perhaps. So we can scrounge around and find another price and maybe get something $20,000-$30,000 cheaper. Maybe. Would it be as good? Would it be available now, like we kind of are looking for? And again, to Councillor Imhoff's point, the track record of this company, by the way, they are a local company. They have a branch that's in the States, yes, so that they can open up and do good work in the States, and there's a lot of references there. One thing that impressed me, and I thought about secondary plans, well, who did Centerport? That was a big deal. A lot of property there, a lot of design work. What was this company? I found out after, scroll down the references and there they are. So I guess in the interest of seeing something comfortably or comfortable, that it would be done correctly and done quickly. Not quickly that they make a mess of it, just quickly that in due course. I'm comfortable with going this way with this company.
Myself, I truly expected the cost to be higher, based on knowing consulting firms and what they charge. I expected it to be higher. So I am comfortable with the costing, and I have full confidence in the company. They have done some very large planning, including the city of Winnipeg. They did our Winnipeg. Is that what they did? I think they did our Winnipeg. They've done a lot of large projects, and I was on other websites and looking around at different municipalities, and I was reading some secondary plans, and they're very, majority is small areas, nothing comparing to creating a whole other part of a town, right? It's like the other side of 59 will become a new East St. Paul, a whole town, a whole community will be over there, schools and shopping and housing and services and amenities. This is not just a cut up piece of property for housing. This is creating a whole town. This is providing the municipality with a good concrete plan to protect and ensure moving forward, the municipality's development is done properly. Councillor Posthumous.
But we don't know it's going to be a whole town because, as Councillor DeVal saying, the traffic problem there. There's lots of land that could be commercial also, which we've already done, like on Wenzel and Ryanworth Way. We don't know that there's going to be a school in there and that, but we should. The secondary plan would help us figure that out. I'm not sure how that works with Indigenous land, if they can just, they don't have to adhere to it and they can do what they want on their own land. They may have other thoughts. I don't see a complete whole. A second East St. Paul of 10,000 people or something. But the secondary plan would probably lay that all out and figure out what fits. Plan 2050 still is a working copy. We don't know. Government changes, they may be gone. Who knows? But I'm looking at this, I do believe they are a very good company. My concern also is just the price. If there's 2 on Mercs, I don't understand why we can't check those prices out or our planner check out. Did we even ask Redwood Planning when Derek looked at it? Did he say this was very reasonable, or he probably didn't even see the price?
Didn't have a look at this.
Yeah, so
As mentioned, it's hard for price comparisons based on the scope of a lot of the secondary plans that have been done. They're much smaller scale, right?
but it doesn't hurt to look at the 2 that are in Mercs if they're close to what we have and what their prices are. I'm not saying we months or whatever, if we look at it, find it, oh, we can make our decision in a week or 2. I'd still like to know those prices. And if Derek would look at it and see his thoughts, because he obviously has worked on lots over his years, all different types, and he may say, hey, that's a very good price.
Okay, we have a planner that works in our RM, and this is being presented by our staff and planning. RRPD would be, I'm sure, involved to whatever facet that Playmakers wants them to be involved in. I really think that, you know, we've had this for a little bit in our computers. If we wanted to ask those questions, it would have been nice before we come here today.
We just got the price though. Oh, okay, a couple days ago, sorry.
So, you know, I'm gonna ask our planner if how she feels about the cost of the proposal.
Well, I feel based on experience, it's going to be a little bit more expensive than, you know, someone who has 20 less years experience, of course, right? And in regards to scope, this is a very, very large scope. My just random guess would be, I was guessing around, say, 90 to 100,000 for someone with less experience.
And you know, you can always find somebody less. That is easy to do. You can always find someone less. It is, are you getting the value for your money? And do you feel confident in the organization? And that to me is very important. And I do feel that there was confidence when we left the meeting. I do feel that the organization is the right fit for East St. Paul. We do have some pressing items, and I am advising council to consider that. Time is of the essence, and you know, I thought that coming to this table today, that the discussion would have been a little bit more positive. So in lieu of time, how does council want to proceed? Are we going to vote on the resolution? Are we tabling it? How does council feel? I'm just going to go around the room. I'm going to start with Councillor Imhoff.
Having considered all this stuff here, and what our planner's saying, I'd be willing to support it right now, so I'm willing to vote on it.
Thank you. Councillor Duval.
Yes, me as well. Again, I'll repeat again, one of my first points is that this is such an important step that we have to look at quality before this value for the dollar, not a particular dollar number. I think we'll be getting it with this, so I'm ready to support it.
Okay, Councillor Posthumous.
I would prefer to table it for those ones that are in works and talk to river planning, Derek, to see if it's if it's in the ballpark or if it's extravagant. That's what I meant. I'm not saying that it's not a good company and it's not gonna do a good job.
Counselor Horechko.
I agree with Councilor Stevens. I would like to see the table until the August meeting, just to get some more information on it. Through Mercs or whatever, just, this is a big decision.
Okay, so we have three supporting to move forward on the resolution, so we'll be moving forward on the resolution. I will advise my council to ensure that when you get material, that if you have questions to ask them, if you need to do your due diligence, do so. I understand that Councillor Imhoff presented the tenders on Mercs. But you know, however, we don't know if they're comparable or how long they're open for and when council would make a decision on that. So that could be a little bit in advance of waiting for a decision from another community, not knowing exactly what they're making a decision on and when their next meetings might be. Now, do we have a resolution read? I'm sorry.
I have one point to make.
Sure.
Can you please have this as the recorded vote?
Yes, we will. Did you read a resolution?
Yes.
Okay, can you reread it so that it's fresh in our minds?
Be resolved that council approves the proposal for professional planning services for a secondary plan as submitted by placemakers for the total cost of $131,840 plus applicable taxes.
Okay, and we had a mover. Who was our mover?
It was Councillor Duval, seconded by Councillor Dumas.
Okay, thank you. Our discussion is now closed. I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed?
Opposed?
And that's carried. And that's a recorded vote. Okay, and now for adjournment. Do we have anything in camera?
No.
Okay, for adjournment.
Be resolved that the meeting be adjourned, the time being 10:51 a.m.
Can I have a mover, please?
Did Oris just move it?
Councillor Imhoff, seconded by Councillor Duval. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that's carried. Now adjourned. Thank you very much.